Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Balanced Business Coach. My name is Toni Robinson, and I'm a life coach for leaders. I work with individuals or leadership teams to create more harmony between personal and professional life to be able to make a bigger, more positive impact on the workplaces that they serve. Today on the podcast, I have a very, very special guest joining me today. Her name is Iliana Marentes, and she is someone that I've been friends with for many years now, and we actually met through our life coach. We did a group program together and just totally hit it off, kept in touch. And when the pandemic hit, we spent hours on the phone every single day, just chatting about life, about work, all kinds of things that we were both passionate about, that we were both struggling with, going through. And we just realized how much value we had to talk about. And I wish I wish that we would have recorded those conversations back then and started a podcast like many years ago, because I think it would have been such an incredible product or podcast by now. But many years later, we are finally going to be on a podcast together, just riffing. We do have a topic for today. It is changing your perception and making your reality work for you. And I, at this point in time, have not brought Illy into the conversation yet. This is pre-podcast. I'm not recording this after the fact. So I don't know where this is going to go. Our conversations tend to take really wild turns and twists, and they just are so good. So I really hope that you enjoy this episode, and hopefully it brings you some value. And without further ado, let's get into it.
How's it going? Was this already recording?
It is.
Oh, wow. Hi.
It's okay. I'm going to chop it up. Yeah, so how are you feeling? How's your day going, first of all?
It's good. I feel like I've been crushing. Honestly, this office has been like helping me just like feel so much more focused at work. Every time I'm in here, I feel like every day I think about the fact that I used to spend 10 hours sitting on my bedroom floor.
How
I don't know how I did
horrible
that.
for your back.
I would like sit on the floor, I'd lay on the ground, I'd sit on the bed, and I was like, I love flexible seating. This is great.
Right.
And now I have a desk, and I'm like, oh my, even just like I
Ooh.
have like 2 monitors. Oh, it's so nice. And then I
Yeah.
have my desk that goes up and down, and I have my treadmill. So I like get my steps in through. That was another thing. Today I was like, I didn't do normally I start my day with like a mile and a half, like little walk while I work. And I didn't do it today. And like a little bit into work, I was like, yo, I'm just like feeling off. And I like stood up and I started walking, and I was like, that was so uncomfortable just sitting. And I was like, I used to always just sit. Just sit.
Yeah.
Glad those days are behind me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not doing that anymore either. I have really been embracing like chunks of work. So since I've
Mhm.
been doing these like 4 a.m.s, I'll work in the morning um, for like, well, part of it is like, morning routine stuff, like
Mhm.
journaling and all that. But then part of it is like doing work stuff. So for like 3 hours, I'll do all of that. And then I take a big break, like 2 to 3 hours, where I'm getting Remy ready. I'll go to the gym, I'll cook breakfast, take a walk, whatever. And then I come back and I sit down at my desk and do more work. And I'm like, man, this is so great.
I
Because it
think
feels like
I,
two separate work days.
yeah. I feel like I would really, I think my thing with sometimes with my job is I feel like when I take the break, like, so, because that's something I'll do is I go to the gym, like, on a couple days a week, on Mondays and Thursdays.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I have to like I really like having that little space, but I definitely feel like when I get back, I'm like sometimes I'm like I wish I was just done. But I
Mm,
feel like if I didn't feel that way about what I was doing, I feel like I would really love the chunks. Like I feel like that would feel really good to be like, okay, I'm gonna have like a writing block, and then I'm gonna go do something else, and I'm gonna have like a, I don't know, like creative block or like organization block.
yeah.
I'm definitely, but I do that with my day. I have it's this thing. It's called a block schedule. Someone taught it's like this lady. She does like productivity stuff, and it's really helpful. She was talking about like getting more done in your day, and she's like, you have to think of your day. She's like, not like she's like the way I get more things done is not by being like from 2 to 3 I'm going to do this, and then 3 to 3:30 I'm going to do this, and then 3:30 to 4. She's like, I treat my day like school, where it's like you had like science and then you had math, and like when the bell rang at the end of science you didn't
Mm,
like stay at science, you went to math. So she does it like that. So it'll be like you're like, and everyone sets up their blocks however, but like so mine will be like the morning block, and that's like my morning routine, and then it's like work block, and then on a gym day it's like gym break block, and then work block, and then like afternoon block, evening block. And so I feel like that's been really helpful because then I feel like in the morning, for example, it's like I don't have to do specific things, but it's like that's my morning block to do my morning things. So it's like
yeah.
journaling, skincare, dishes, listen to a podcast. And sometimes I do everything, sometimes I just do some of it, but it's like that's the morning block.
Okay, so I've heard of block scheduling before, but I've never heard it explained in terms of like school, like subjects. That's so good. That's
But I
so
feel
good.
like that'd be really helpful even in like business is like,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, like whatever, everyone has what works for them, but like an idea that's coming to mind is like, like having it be like, this is the creative block. This is the
Mm-hmm.
time to write or, whatever. And then this is like the time of like emails and like, I don't know, learning a system.
Or
So
even
then it's,
like sales block, operations block,
yeah,
tech block, or customer service block. I don't know, whatever. That kind of stuff. Huh.
yeah.
Good stuff.
And I feel like everyone's different. I feel like some people, they work really well with like, I'm just going to show up and kind of like do whatever. But I feel like that even helps me even like with work, splitting up my day. Like I kind of have like I know like at the end of my day, I'm just kind of tired, so I'm not really wanting to do a lot of thinking. So I
Mm-hmm.
like to like, save all the stuff that's just kind of mindless. I kind of like save that for the end of the day. And like the start of my day is the same way. Like I like to start with a little bit of like just like autopilot. And then the middle of my day is when I'm doing like a tax return, where it's like I need to like actually think.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like helpful instead of just like getting stuff done. Because it's like all needs to get done that day or that week. But it's helpful to know, like, I feel like you kind of taught me that though, where you kind of talked about like when you have stuff to do, like your energy, like how much energy is this going to take? And like,
Yeah.
so figure like what stuff that it's like feels draining and what feels like not as much. And when do I have the energy for the stuff that's requires more energy?
Yeah. Because you can only, like, if something is a high energy item, you can't really do two of those a day. I mean, at least I feel like that's why it's been helpful for me to break it up because a lot of the work that I've been doing is more like deep work and
Mhm.
like high energy work. And so if I do everything straight through, like, okay, I'm going to work from 8 to 2 or whatever, like
Mhm.
it's too much thinking
Yeah.
power at once. Whereas if I have that 3 hour break and I go do
Mhm.
something active and I eat and I like chill for a little bit, then it feels like that like renewal of a completely new day that
Totally.
it's like I have that brain power back again. So,
Totally.
but
I
yeah.
feel like I've also been just like learning more about human design, and I'm so new to it. I think it's something I want to like learn more about, so I've been dabbling a little bit more into it.
Yeah.
But just like the very basic parts of it, like what I've learned about myself and like how I operate, like that's been really helpful. I feel like to like set up like even just like how I do things, or like mainly like make decisions, or like yeah, like use my energy, or like spend my time. Um but I feel like that's something that like it kind of reminds me of that a little bit, because I feel like with human design a lot of it is like I don't know, like everyone's designed differently, and everyone, so like for example, like I'm a generator, and so as a generator, like I'm I respond to things. And
Mm-hmm.
like that like was like the biggest epiphany the other day, because someone was talking about how like generators can't do open-ended questions, and on such a small scale, that's something that I feel like Chris will sometimes be like, "What do you want for dinner?" And I'm like, I have no fucking clue. But I like learned as a generator, like I don't do well with like open-ended questions like what do you want for dinner? I do better with like, do you want Mexican? Yes or
Mm-hmm.
no? And I'm like very clearly like, yep or no. Like it's something to respond to instead of creating it. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's what I'm really interested to learn more about human design, because I've heard about people talking about like doing the same thing, like using human design, different parts of our human design to even like set up your day and how you structure your
Mm.
day. Like
Interesting.
I feel like I have the most energy in the morning, and
Yeah.
like the afternoon
Same.
when I'm like kind of more like I just want to chill. But I know there's some people who they like don't really get ideas in the morning, but at night they thrive. And I think that's something that's like I don't know. Sometimes I look at like how corporate world is set up, and I'm like, I feel like there's something people we might thrive better if we let people like work when they thrive.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, even with flexible work schedules, like, there's still this expectation of like you have to work during daylight, you know? Like, I I feel like for me, I thrive when it's dark outside, which I've really come to the awareness of, or if it's raining. It's almost like something about like the darkness or the cloudiness makes me focus. And
Mm-hmm.
so like when I am feeling particularly all over the place or like procrastinating, I will close all my blinds and I will put on like a rain scene on my TV so that it feels like it's dark and rainy because it helps me focus. And I notice like how many ideas and just like quickly I'm able to like
Mm-hmm.
generate whatever I'm working on or finish projects when it's dark outside. But that means that I'm working between like 4 and 7-ish, depending on the
Yeah.
time of year, to and then like after 7 to whenever. So it doesn't, I don't know. But if I were to go to a like corporate environment, unless I'm in a capacity where I never have to work with other people, that's probably not going to fly because most people are asleep during those hours.
That's so interesting. I think that's really cool though that you know that about yourself. That you're able to like set up that scene for yourself.
I didn't realize it until like the last few months. But I'm just like, damn, I'm productive as hell right now. And then it happened again at night and I was like, this always happens to me. Like when it's dark out, I'm really really like it just goes.
You're not like making me reflect on that about myself, because I feel like when I intentionally set up a night scene, I don't know if that's the right word, but like I feel like if the shades are closed but it's like sun outside, I almost like feel gross. Like have it because it's like when the shades are down, but you can see that it's like sunny outside. Like to
Feel
me, it
that.
almost feels dirty home. Like I need to
Yes.
like open up the blinds
Yep.
and let the light in and like feel like clean. But I feel like at night, I love when it's dark and I put on like my little twinkle lights and like light some candles and light an incense. Like I definitely feel like I get ideas at night, but it's like interesting because I feel like I both feel like a night owl, but also I feel like I thrive in the morning. And sometimes I think I'm a night owl almost in like I forget what the word is, but I've heard people talk about it. It's like when you feel like you're not able to get what like have time for you during the day, so you stay up late. It's like out of like rebellion.
Oh,
There's like a word for it, but it's like basically a lot of people have talked about that they're like will stay up late to like watch their favorites, like watch TV, like mindlessly watch TV or mindlessly scroll. And
yeah.
it's like coming from a place of like you didn't feel like you had time during the day because you were going to work and then you had all these obligations. And so it's like, even though in the back of your mind, you're like, I should go to bed so I can get up and feel energized in the morning. Um, you stay up late because you're like, this is my me time.
Yeah.
And it's like, but so that's why sometimes I feel like I get really energized at night, but sometimes I think it's a little bit of that because I feel like when I do wake up, like when I wake up at 5:30 and I have like an hour and a half to myself, I love it. Like just thinking about it, I'm like, get happy. Like,
Gives
I like put on my podcast, I do dishes, and it's just like so relaxing. Like I look
yes.
forward to, and I love when it's like 7:30 and I feel like I've done
So much. No,
yeah.
I totally get that. And yeah, I am not a night owl at all. I don't even know that I'm necessarily like an early riser, like a morning person, but I noticed like because I was sort of forcing myself to stay up late and finish projects, especially when I
Mhm.
was, still working at my previous place of work. Um, it would be like, oh, well, shit, once the sun goes down, I'm knocking things out left and right. But like when it's like daytime, I can't focus at all. Like, I just don't want to be sitting here. It's like I'm very fidgety and kind of just like, I don't know. It's like I feel like trapped, like I got to get out. But then when the sun goes down, I'm like, all right, I'm good. Like, let's knock this out. I don't know what, I don't know. It's interesting.
But I think that's awesome that you know that about yourself because now you can just set yourself up for success in that way. I think it like reminds me of like learning styles. You know, like some people
Mm-hmm.
like I'm a visual learner. I
Mm-hmm.
need to in order to get it, but there's some people who are like auditory learners. I don't know
Yeah.
what it's like visual auditory, yeah.
Yep.
Um but I think it's like when you can like know that about yourself, you can set like your study like habits up in that way or you, I don't know, you can make sure you're supporting yourself in that way so you can like support yourself to succeed. And I feel like that's what you're doing, which I think is really cool that you found that out about yourself.
Yeah. The unfortunate part of all of this um, is that schools and corporate environments or just like the typical workplace really doesn't care about like these unique personality profiles about people. Like, how amazing would it be if, like, I know that there are some schools that are like doing this now, but it's like, the very specialized, like, what are those called? Montessori school.
Oh, that's the school I literally went to growing up.
Well, then what the?
Well, because we didn't go to school at night.
No, I know, I know. I'm not saying about that. What I'm saying is some Montessori schools are now, I think, incorporating like human design or things like that where it's like they know certain kids respond with a yes and no rather than an open-ended question. So they
Uh,
are implementing that into like the curriculum of their like guided learning. So and also what you were saying with like the learning styles. So you have the visual, you have the auditory, you have the people who I don't know what it's called when they just like reading instructions. That's a different one.
and then
Um,
there's people like they're it's like kinetic learners, like they learn in movement, or like it's like literally like there was one person she was homeschooling and she said her son was a kinetic learner, and so he would like do he was like taking a vocab quiz, like going in circles around the house in like roller skates
oh my
because
god,
it's like active, like being
they have
like
to be
physically.
moving. Oh my gosh, I feel like that's Remy.
I was like, props to that mom because I would have been like, careful.
Sit your down.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like imagine how different our schools and our workplaces would be if we actually took the time. Like, all you have to do is have your employee take the human design quiz and then figure out like the basics about how to interact with them. Like, we waste time going through the process of like trying to get to know them, but then it's never at the forefront of a
Mm-hmm.
person's mind unless they're like into human design or into, personality types and stuff. Like, it's never at the front of somebody's mind of like, how does this person learn? How does this person answer question? How does this person communicate? Like, there's all of these like tools and techniques, and I teach them too, but it's like, if you if it's not top of your mind, you're just going to go based off of how you learn and how you ask questions or respond to questions or whatever. So I feel like that needs to be a more mainstream thing.
I think we also like, but I think part of the issue too is I don't think people even realize that that's a thing. That like those are ways that people are different. And I think that's a little bit where sometimes people view that as like, oh, this is just like, I don't know, like I could go down a whole rabbit hole on this, but being careful with my words, I feel like there's a lot of like, you know, I don't know if human design is considered a modality or what the term is, but it reminds me of just like astrology. How like astrology has kind of been taken up by the Western world and like got turned into this like horoscopes on a newspaper,
Right.
or like horoscope apps. And it's like that's like, that's not astrology. But like that's then like what the Western world has taken in as astrology. And so everyone's like, this is ridiculous. And it's like, no, no, no. Like if you actually talk to like an astrologer, someone who really
Astrologer.
has like studying the fundamentals of this and like really like understands the core roots of like where this all began, and like you're like, oh shit, like I have a friend, she's an incredible astrologer and she like knows astrology and human design, and like when she explains things you're like, holy
How?
shit,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and I think that that's the same thing with human design, where it's like at the beginning I was like, I don't know, human design kind of went a little bit over my head, and then someone like really explained it to me, and especially me as a generator, like kind of explaining like how I like work in different like parts of like myself, and like like things like that of like having, so like with, this is very basic, like I know my very, I don't know if I'm like giving like the precise information on this, but like generators, you have a connection to like your sacral. So that basically, from what I've understood, it's like basically like your gut feeling, like your gut
Mhm.
instinct, like, and that's
Which is
something that
why you're
generators,
able to easily answer like yes and no because you have that like gut instinct.
but also like I feel like I get that with people. Like I'll
Mhm.
meet, and I've said this before I even like found out that I was a generator and learned about sacral and stuff. But like I feel like I'll meet people and from the get-go, like it's not like I don't like you, but I'm like something's rubbing me the wrong way, but it's like I don't know what it is. And then it's always like even it'll be like months later and something will happen, I'm like, that's it. I knew something was off. I knew. And it's like the same thing even like when I met Chris for the first time. I met Chris for the first time and I was like, yo, I don't know what it is about him, but like I like his energy. And like from what I knew about him and my first impression of him versus like the energy that I was feeling from him, like when I first met him, I would have thought that we'd be like compatible in like a romantic relationship. But I
Mhm.
remember I told my friend, I was like, I can see myself being best friends with him. Like there's something about him I just like,
Aww.
like an energy. So then I when the first day I met him, I was like, there's something, he like made a joke and it wasn't even like a funny joke, but I was like, I like this guy. There was something I was like, I like this guy's energy. But then the other thing
Your
was,
jokes aren't funny, but I like your energy.
well, no, no, no. It's like it was funny, but like I feel like it wasn't like this whole like basically everyone came to my house and I had this mirror and I had a sticker on, like I hadn't unpackaged my stuff because if you know me, I leave my tags on everything. And everyone was like, what the fuck? Why is your mirror still in its box? You have your mirror like standing there with the box and the price tag on it. Like, take it off. So I was like, fine. Now I'm embarrassed. So we took it off, and when we unpackaged it, I didn't realize that the mirror had like a rim to it. I thought that that was the box. And on instinct, I was like, oh no, I didn't know that was the mirror. I thought that was part of the box. And he like looked at me and he's like, oh yeah, like it looked a lot better with the box. And like, it's like, I don't even know if that's how he said it, but man, he said something along those lines. And I was like, I like this guy. I was like, he just had like a sense of humor to him. Anyways, so here we are, 3 years later.
Oh.
But But no, but then the other thing is emotional authority. This is so key for me because I've learned that I'm an emotional authority, like a generator with an emotional authority. So like generators with small decisions, you're just like yes, no, you just know instinctively. But there's some people who have a sacral authority, which means even with big decisions, you just know like the first gut instinct you get, that's like your answer, you know? So like if you were to be like, do you want to like buy a ticket right now to go to Amsterdam? Someone with the sacral authority is either gonna be like yes or no. And like that first answer is the answer. But emotional authority, you need to like ride the emotional wave, which is like it's gonna feel really exciting, and then it's gonna feel like it might feel like really like no way, and then it's gonna like even out, which has been huge for me because I feel like sometimes before I would something would feel really exciting and I'd just like commit to it, like maybe purchase a course or I don't know, buy a ticket or whatever. And then after I'd be like,
Why
I
did
don't know why I did that. That doesn't feel good anymore. And so what I've learned is I have to like ride the wave. But I don't know, it's interesting. But I feel like that in itself, so like that's as far as I've gotten in human design, like the very surface level. But I feel like as I've learned that, I'm like, wow, I know there's so much more. Like I know people talk about like human design can tell you like what kind of routine to set up. And that's another thing. Like for me in astrology, like I've learned again, very surface level. But I guess like a lot of my planets are in something in my chart. I don't know if it's the planet or the houses or what, but like everything is basically in like routine. Like essentially like routines are important to me, like super important to me. And that makes so much sense cuz like I can like see how like I thrive when I have a routine. And again, it doesn't have to be that I do the exact same thing every day, but even just that block schedule of like this is my morning time. Like that being my routine. In the morning I do dishes and maybe listen to a podcast and like I'm going on a tangent. But I feel like that's what's helped me also like help me create more joy in my life in a way because I feel like now I know how to like like even at work I feel like work is so much more enjoyable now because I'm able to like again implement that routine. Like there's something about like okay, I start my day and I have my mud water and I have my electrolytes and I go like I walk for like an hour and a half on my treadmill while I work. And then I go and make breakfast and I have my breakfast and I sit down and do like my really focused work. And then after that like I walk a little bit more. And then I go to the take a break and I go to the gym and then I come back and I do like kind of like end my day with like my like you know not mindless but like kind of easy stuff like
Yeah.
that structure has helped me so much instead of just being like I'm just going to sit down for the next 8-9 hours and just like
Figure it out.
yeah
Yeah.
I think it's like I think that's helpful. I don't know, but I feel like it's like the same thing of like kind of like how like horoscopes in a newspaper or in a, like in like a K-pop magazine has kind of like taken away. Like people are like now look at us like astrology as like oh it's
Almost
like
like discredit it or
discredited.
yeah,
Yeah, but I feel like I don't know. Like as I've learned about it, I'm like I agree with you that I think workplaces should understand human design. I think people should understand their human design because it helps you set yourself up.
for sure. And I feel like the like workplaces and schools in general want everybody to fall into this like line. And if you don't fall in that line, you feel like something's wrong with you, or like, why can't I operate under this same structure or standard that everybody else is doing? Like, why is this person able to produce this amount of work, or why are they able to work this amount of hours? Like, without knowing yourself or being in an environment that encourages you to learn about what works best for you, what
Mhm.
is your perfect routine, when are you most productive, what makes the most sense for your work schedule, not just the flexibility of like, yeah, I can go pick up my kid from school. Like, I feel like that's something I hear so much. I want job flexibility. And it's literally like, you can go pick up Johnny from school and that's your flexibility. Like, that's really not flexibility.
Mhm.
That's just like someone letting you leave to go pick up your kid from school, but you're expected to come back and work all these hours to like catch up on the emails or
Mhm.
whatever. I don't know. But I just feel like because at such a young age we're told to like fit into this like do as you're told box, and this is how it is, and we take tests and you need to get an A on the test, and the test is all that matters. Like,
Mhm.
it puts you into this mindset that's like you have to follow this one path, and that's the only way that you'll be successful. But it's like for
Mhm.
people who don't operate that way naturally, that's not the way to success. That's the way to burnout and
Yeah.
dissatisfaction and just like hating your life and being like, what the hell? Like, what's wrong with me?
I think it's so interesting that you bring that up too, that that's not flexibility, because I was having this conversation with someone recently about like I had the realization that like security in a job, I forget if that's the word that we were using, but security in a job is different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about this as like for some people, money, they just like they want more money. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But I realize, and like for them, it's like more money creates security in the sense of like I have the security of, I feel like security wasn't the word we were using, but for now, um, that like, like having more money made them feel more secure. It made them feel more stable. It created more safety for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were like, I can afford whatever it is they want to afford. And I realized that for me, like, yes, to a certain point, like money's important, right? Like there's a certain point where it's
Because
like you
we
need a
have
certain,
basic needs, but not because of money for the sake of money.
but like I found that like once I get my basic needs met with money, like I value time freedom
Mm-hmm.
so much more than that. And I was thinking about that, like if my job told me like you could like name your price, I feel like I'd be like, instead, like once I got to a certain point, I'd be like, rather than a raise every year, I would like more vacation time. Like I would be happier making less, but having like three times the vacation than just constantly making more and more and more. And I think that there's some people though who it's like they like, because for me I think like something that's really important to me is like having the time freedom to be able to travel whenever I want, not only just like vacation time, but having the freedom to be like I can pack up and go visit my grandmother, or go visit my grandfather, or go home and not have to worry about like needing permission to be working in a different place, being able to like take time off in the middle of the day to go get lunch with my dad when I'm home visiting, or yeah, things like that. Having that flexibility is so much more important to me. But there are some people who like that's not important to them. They're like, I don't mind. I like there's nowhere I want to be, or like I don't need that. But like for them what's really important is like they want to be making more money because maybe they want to, I don't know, like save up for a house, or they have a kid that they want to put through school. I don't know what it might be. Um but I think that that's something that like I've been starting to learn is like what's important to other people isn't necessarily what's going to be important to me. And I think I've learned this in other areas in my life. Like, I remember I used to talk about this with traveling. Like, I used to feel really strange because, like, when I would go anywhere, I felt like a lot of people would be like, oh, what museums are you going to go to? And I was like, fuck, like, if it's up to me, none. Like, I
Right. I'm
will
right
be
there
sitting at
with
the
you.
cafe. Huh?
I'm right there with you. I'm not a
Yeah,
museum girly.
I'm not a museum girly at all. My grandfather, bless him, he loves the museums.
Oh.
And because like we when we travel, I feel like I look at him and I'm like, another museum. But then he'll call me, he'll be like, oh, you're going to Paris, like what are you gonna do? And I'll be like, yo, I don't know. And he like gets upset. He's like, that's not the way to do it. That is so bad. Like he's like, you need he has an itinerary for his itinerary. Like he has his days like planned, and sometimes he'll show you his plan and you're like, oh, this sounds great for like, he was going to Paris with my brother and my dad. They're going on like this cruise and they're going to stop in Paris. So he's like, what do you think of this plan? And I was like, for the week? And he's like, no, for the morning. And I was like, for the morning? For the morning? You want to
Sounds
be there for the
exhausting.
morning? So, anyways, I like, but for a while, I used to feel bad. Like, I used to feel like I was wasting my trips because I would just walk and then sit in a cafe and literally just people watch, maybe like read my book, journal, and like happy as a clam. And I had to come to terms with the fact that it's like, it's okay that I don't want to go to the museums, that I like don't care about the bridge that some horse fell off of. Like, I just, I'm like, like,
Yeah.
I'll, I'll sit at the cafe and watch it from there. But yeah, and I think that's the same thing with work, though, is like, I think coming to terms with, I think that's something that's been really hard for me for a while, was I think I felt like, what's wrong with you that like you're not appreciating this, the paycheck. And it's like, it's not that I'm not appreciating the paycheck, but I'm realizing it's like, that's just not what I value. Like what I value, like, again, like we said, like to a certain point, like needs are met. And I'm very thankful that I'm at a point where I feel like I'm able to cover all my needs and I don't have to worry about it. But I think that's where I kind of get to the point where it's like a raise at that point. It's like very nice. It's like, thank you so much. Like that means a lot that like you would like to be like paying me more. But I think deep down what I'm realizing is it's like I could do without the raise. Like I would rather the vacation.
Yeah.
I would rather like shorter hours in the week. You know what I mean? I'd rather like, instead of getting the raise, just like keep my current, like have me work less hours.
Well, and I think that's like the flexibility that I'm talking about, where you have employees who, like, it's not about just being able to go pick up a kid from school, like a 30-minute break in their day to go do that. If you give someone like you the flexibility to take, let's say, 2 to 3 months of time off a year, and you make the same salary, and maybe um, that time is paid almost like a teacher salary, let's say. So, like, you make a salary for the entire year and you can split it up and you still get paid during that time off, but it is a lesser salary because you have so much time off. Um, but then you're able to hire other workers who maybe want that same type of flexibility. I've actually read studies on this, where there's people who do like shift sharing, and it's like, if you want to only work 3 hours a day, you can share your shift with people so that you aren't having to work these full days, but you're still getting like full paychecks. Like your needs are still being met, but you have certain flexibilities. Like, I would need to go back and look at the study and see how it all worked out, but I feel like that is flexibility, being able to choose that level of like freedom for yourself, but still work at the company. Because the problem right now is, if you were to take off a month at a time, you don't have anyone. Well, I don't know you specifically, but most organizations don't have anyone who's going to be able to support your workload for an entire month. And there's no cross training, there's no like, here's this out of office policy that allows you to go out of office and not feel like when you come back, you are going to have to burn yourself out in order to catch up. And so I feel like the flexibility piece of it is, you can go and do that and you're going to come back and be good. Like, you're not going to come back to a month's worth of stuff. We have things in place for you to be supported through that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that that's like, and I think that that's an area where sometimes I think we're a little bit set in like, I don't know, sometimes I think we can get like a bit more creative with
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
And like I think
America's
it'd be
really far behind on that. There's other countries that are more creative. Like the study I was showing, sorry for interrupting you, but
no,
the
no.
study I was referencing, it was in another country where they do that. And I mean, it's like the Europeans who get like the summers off. Actually, we were talking about this the other day. I'm sorry, I really cut you off.
No, no, no.
But we
Well,
were
I love
talking
it.
about this the other day. Um, how Europeans get like so much more time off than we do.
Mhm.
And it's not only that they get time off, like more time off in general, but most like they have like a month out of the summer, out of the year, I think, or maybe it's a specific country, but everybody's off at the same time. And
It's like
go ahead.
France does that. No,
France?
France does
Okay.
that. Where it's like, and I don't know if it's like everyone, it's not like the country shuts down, but it's like so common that like at least like restaurants, especially, they're just like closed for August on
That's
vacation.
that's crazy. But it's so cool because then there's not this expectation of when you're gone, like, oh shit, what am I going to be coming back to? Like, how many people have emailed me? How many people are blah, blah, blah? Like, if you have this, like, support or like understanding that like I'm out of office doesn't mean email me and I'll get to you when I get back. It means don't email me nothing. Like don't put work on me to get to I would hate that, Illy, and I'm about to go on a rant right now. But I would hate that when I would go on vacation and it would be my favorite clients who would do this to me. God bless them. Like, I love them so much. But I was just like, are you kidding me right now? Because, and I'm sure I've done it to people too. Like, when you need something, you need something. Like, it happens. And there's no, it's just the way that we do business in America specifically. But like, when I go out on vacation and you know that I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, don't you think that like it's going to take me forever to get back to all of you? So, like,
Hmm.
you emailing me and being like, hey, just like, whenever you get back, and I'm like, did you read my out of office? It says contact X, Y, and Z. Contact them so I don't have to deal with this when I get back. But they would be like, I'll just wait. The whole point of you contacting XYZ is so that when I come back, I'm not bombarded and like wanting
Cry.
to
You're not
put it
trying to,
lightly.
you're not trying to come back on Monday and be like, great. And now in this one day, I'm going to do 2 weeks of work.
It's not possible.
And that's something that's like, that's a personal value of mine. Of, I remember there was this TikToker, Instagram, because I'm not even on TikTok. But he had like an out of office notice, and it was something like, I'm out of office. If this is an emergency, I can assure you it's not. If it is, you should probably be calling 911. Like, and he's like, and if you really think it's that important, this playlist is something you should probably be listening to like get the edge off. But I think about that because like that's something I had some coworkers, they were going on maternity leave, and I was like taking over some of her clients. And she's like, so we're kind of going over it. I was like, I want to make sure like I have plenty of time to like kind of understand like how you do the stuff. So when you're gone, I don't like ping you. And she's like, well, like, I'll have my phone on me. So if if you really need me, like, you know where to find me. And I was like, no, your priority is to keep your child alive. Not only keep your child alive, but like bond with her. Like your baby is only going to be that small for like in like a blink of an eye. Like if there's anything that is so important that I have to call you, like we have bigger issues going on. There is somebody who will have the answer. Like we will figure it out. And I even have some clients that I work with that like I'm kind of like their point, like they're my point person for like just like different tasks. And she was going on a trip to visit her daughter who was like studying abroad. And she's like, if you need me, like just text me. And I was like, I'm not. And I told her, I was like, that's something. I'm like, you're on vacation, that is your time with your daughter. Like there's other people that will have the answer. You enjoy your time. Like I do not plan on contacting you when you're on vacation because that's your time off. Like that's just And I think it's such an instinct for us to just be like, but if you need me, just text me, just do this. And like, I think we view it as like, that's just like a quick, like, oh, it'll just take 2 seconds. But I'm like, no, I think it's bringing up a bigger issue where it's like the issue is not that like you don't have, 5 minutes to read a text message. The issue is like, why do we have nothing in place where like you're not able to take 5 minutes off?
Right.
And I think that that's something that I don't know. I'm just very adamant about. I'm like, if you're off, I'm not like, and let me tell you, I have never once needed to contact someone when they were off.
I
I've
swear.
been able to figure it out. I figure it out. There's other people, it might take me a little bit longer to figure it out, but I can figure it out.
Yeah, and it's sad to me because it is our first instinct to be like, no big deal, like just text me, whatever, like just email me, like I'll get to it at some point. But you don't realize the difference of your mindset when you pull away from the workplace for like 24 hours. When
Mm-hmm.
you go on that vacation or you take that day off or you disconnect and then you do get that text message or you do see that email come through, you're like, and then it feels like a burden because you said you can text me or just email me.
Mm-hmm.
So now you feel like you have to respond because you said you would. And it's like, but I am off. Why are they texting me? This isn't an emergency. And it's like, but I told them I would. And you have this internal conflict. And then you're like the biggest people pleaser on earth. So you're like, I have to text them back. And then you're like all frustrated, frazzled.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, and it's just really sad because our workplaces don't do a good enough job at supporting people through that. Like what I would love to see is that while people are out of office, that their emails are actually being forwarded to other
Mm-hmm.
people. So it's not just, hey, contact such and such if you have any questions. Like such and such is just getting your emails and they're able to handle them. Because the other problem with, gosh, we went totally off what we were going to talk about, but the other problem with the whole like contact so and so if you need anything is that a lot of times people will contact so and so. Well, in the chance that they do contact so and so, they normally don't like copy you in. So they'll contact that person. And then when you get back, you have to be like, oh, yeah, it looks like this is done. Or, hey, here's the solution. And they're like, oh, yeah, so and so took care of it for me. And you're like, what the? I just wasted all that time. Like, it's so frustrating. So there has to be a better way because it's just so inefficient. It is not a good way to handle people going out of office at all.
And I think that's something that just like in general comes up even with just being remote. Like I remember going into an office, this is the binder. This is the binder where you would input the information.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I went in to input the information, I'd be like, it's already been done. Granted, like probably would be good to have communication, but it's like even if someone didn't tell me, like I will open the binder and I see that it's been done.
Yeah.
And I think the problem with like now that we're more remote is I feel like we don't see what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just requires different forms of like systems and communication that I
Yeah.
don't know that I think just requires adapting, and I don't think we've necessarily gotten there.
No, because
We you know.
um, we are not the most agile of people in general, I don't think. Like, we don't like to change often. Well, we don't like to change at all, but we definitely don't like to change and adapt often as we see like needs and testing new things out. And I feel like businesses in general need to stop being so stuck in the way we've always done things or the way they've always done things or the way that it always worked. Because as you grow, as technology changes, like you're going to be forced to adapt one way or the other. Like, I know that a lot of employees are getting laid off right now, but also a lot of employees are leaving the workforce and they're finding ways to work for themselves and they're finding ways to make money in other ways. So, like, very soon, this I don't know, not economy, but like the current state of business where it's like businesses have the upper hand in the recruiting process because people need jobs or whatever, that's going to turn around. And I think it's going to be really bad for businesses. And they're going to have to figure out a way to make those adaptations on their own. Where when you have employees who are like, hey, this is what we need. Hey, this is what you should do. Hey, like, if you're doing employee feedback surveys and you're getting information from people who are making recommendations to you, but you're not
Mm-hmm.
making them, and then you've either laid off your workforce or they've left, then when it's time for you to get people back in the door because you're growing or the economy's changed or whatever, you doing things the way you used to do them is never going to be a good way to handle
Fit.
it. Yeah. People aren't going to go for that. You're going to have a hard time hiring, I guess is what I'm saying.
It is interesting because I don't know, with the rise of social media, I think to me it just feels like starting your own business. It's never been as easy or as possible to start your own business than it is now.
Yep.
I think that people are realizing there's a lot more opportunities for them. And so suddenly it's like, this isn't my only option.
Yeah. Because you can create that opportunity for yourself where you're making whatever your salary is right now, and then you have 3 months off a year. Like you get to
Yeah.
create what your flexibility looks like for yourself. And we no longer need an employer to tell us, here's what
And
you.
let me there is a niche for everyone out there. You know what I saw the other day? Oh my goodness. I feel like I missed the boat in 2018. There is this an Instagrammer who literally just goes to Trader Joe's. Tony, this woman goes to Trader Joe's as her job. She goes, she shops. Her videos are, look at what I got at Trader Joe's. My Trader Joe's her. She films her grocery haul. And then her other thing is she'll go and be like, look at the new treats for February. Me trying the new heart-shaped biscuit by Trader Joe's. That's a full-time job. And she has like hundreds of thousands of followers. Apparently is making a great living off of this. And I was like, man, times have fucking changed.
They sure have. They sure
Like
have.
it's wild. Some of the niches I find out there. There's people who literally just crochet. They just film themselves crocheting. And I'm like, man,
No,
I
I've
love
been
that.
looking at these like faceless Instagram accounts where like they literally don't do anything but like have shadows of themselves or like their hands or like they never show who they are, and they have like inspirational messages, and their accounts are growing exponentially like by the minute. And while some people might be like, well, that's not sustainable or that's never going to last or people will get bored or they might run out of content or that may be just like a trend right now and that could go away. Yes, but let's say these people make $1 million off of whatever they are doing right now. If they're smart and they invest that money into real estate or into solar or something that is not going anywhere, then they've just created an entire lifetime worth of wealth for themselves.
I think this is the thing too that just I remember I felt this way during COVID. Because pre-COVID, I remember I was talking to people about how I had a lot of friends who were in the coaching industry
Mm-hmm.
and I did it online. And a lot of the feedback I got from multiple people was you can't do stuff online. you have to do it in person. The two main things were that's not a safe job, right? It's like not a traditional job. You don't have job security like you do in a traditional job. And the other thing was like you can't, video, which is funny talking about it now. But the argument was like video is not the same as in person. You can't replace in person. Like, how do you even do it? I'm like, it's called Zoom. You do it Zoom. And they're like, that's not the same thing. You can't like have like a session with someone virtually. Like, you're not going to have the same. Come COVID, suddenly everyone's like, how do you use Zoom? You know who knew how to
Right.
use Zoom? All the online people who had their online businesses. They all knew
Uh-huh.
how to use. And you know who lost their jobs? The traditional office jobs.
Yep.
Like, none of my friends who had those unsustainable, unstable, non traditional online businesses lost their businesses.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that's interesting is some people talk about like so many businesses are shutting down. I'm like the in person businesses. Granted, I don't know the stats. I'm just talking about the people I know. But like none of my friends who have online businesses, and I have a lot of friends with online businesses, lost their business. Like nothing changed for them. If
Yep.
anything, things grew for a lot of
Right.
them because they were able because they knew how to adapt.
Yep.
But like those in person like brick and mortars, it's like sad to say, but it's like I don't know, I'm going on a tangent.
Okay.
But I think I think that's just so symbolic of how we are as a society because now like everyone is remote even though like we're kind of like post pandemic we're still doing so much as remote, right? Like my therapy, I remember when I went to therapy in college, I would do the sessions on the phone and it was kind of like it was a very unique, I was one of her very few clients that
Who
was
would
on the
do it
phone.
that way? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just because I like knew her in person, like in my hometown. And when I went to college, it was just easier for me to just do it on the phone instead of driving home for like
Right.
2 hours. And now when I was getting a therapist, first of all, there are so many online platforms for therapy, which I don't know how they are in therapy, so I don't want to make a statement
Right.
about them.
This is sponsored by
But
BetterHelp.
yeah. But not only that, like looking for like therapists myself, like just an individual therapist, 9 out of 10 of them were all like on the phone.
Hmm.
Like they don't do like it was very rare to find someone who was like in person. They all said like virtual sessions only.
Yep.
And I don't know, I just think it's interesting because I think I look back and I'm like I just think about everyone who told me like how essentially it was like the way things were I feel like the message was this is how things are done and there's a reason why we do it this way. And I think sometimes we forget to pause and question and ask like, but is this the best way to be doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Do we, and even with businesses, I look at people, I think some of the people that I know who have the most successful businesses, their businesses were so successful partially because they questioned like, do I really need to like put money into all this stuff? People who have online courses and instead of paying, I don't know how much money to like get professional video editors and professional setups, they just record it like this. They're like, hello, here we are for module 1. And they just upload it to their website and they just made it like a little, what is it, password protected.
Yeah.
You buy the course, you get the password.
Yeah.
And it was like they just made it simple.
Yeah.
And I think about like what you're saying about like how we could have people, basically instead of giving everyone a raise and doubling their salary if they're okay with their salary, keep the salary and have them work like the half shift and have someone work the other half shift. And now you have one person. They each have flexibility. I don't know. Maybe it's not that. I know it's like not that simple for everyone, but I think it's less so about like that being the solution for everyone and more so like can we pause and ask ourselves like is this the best way to be doing things or are we just doing this cuz this is how it's been done
Yeah.
and like can we do it differently?
What's coming up for me right now is that like we talk about how part of owning it, well, I don't know how many people talk about this, but I know you and I talk about this, and our coaches talk about this, and the people that we kind of run in the same circles with all talk about this, that part of running your own business is self care, is taking time to meditate, is going to the gym, is doing breath work, is doing EFT, all of these things that traditionally I feel like that's your personal time.
Mm.
Like you do that on your personal time. But I believe it was Lex probably who really ingrained this in me that like doing those practices is part of being a CEO. It is part of being a leader because the reason I'm bringing all this up is like a lot of leaders, business owners, they don't think. Like they don't make space to just think. And I feel like I've seen like movies making fun of like the CEO from wherever that place is, Silicon Valley, who like they go off on these retreats and have like silent retreats and whatever. But it's like, why do you think they're so successful? Because they think outside the box. And how do they do that? They create space for themselves to do that. They have flexibility to think. But if you pack your schedule so full of meetings and projects and whatever, like you can't have these like revolutionary thoughts for your business and for your employees. So if you're not like, if you only think in the traditional way, it's probably because you don't make any time to think differently than you have in the past. Like I make time to just sit and think about my business every single day, because I know that like things are constantly changing around me. I need to make sure that I'm in integrity. I need to make sure that I'm considerate of what's going on in the world. Like, you have to make space to adapt. You have to make space to talk to your employees and see what they want, and then take that information and think about it, process it. Not just like do a little research online and be like, "Oh, we'll just give our employees flexibility. They can have a flexible work schedule." Really, what does that mean? Define that, because there's rules on that. Because I guarantee you, if I decided my work schedule is 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., you're going to have a problem with that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's where I think sometimes we just assume that there's kind of like a reason why everyone does it the way that we do it. Like I remember I always give this example of like, when people talk about like starting a business, people kind of say like that you're not guaranteed, like a lot of the arguments against starting your own business is like you're not guaranteed to succeed.
Mhm.
And I'm like, when I never hear someone say that, if I were to go to my family and be like, I'm going to become a doctor, I don't think anyone would be like, are you sure you
You're
want to
not
become a doctor?
guaranteed to succeed.
They're like, you know how much money you invest into becoming a doctor?
And how many
Between,
people leave medical school?
I don't even know that stat. I don't even know that stat, but I just know that it's a lot of money. Like, first it's your undergrad, but then it's your grad school. Then it's like your postdoc. I don't even know all the steps for it. There is so much time and money invested in becoming a doctor. And here's the thing, you're not guaranteed to get a job when you're done. But I think everyone goes into it just being like, of course I'm going to get a job after this. And sometimes I think about like, if we put as much time and effort into doing anything in our lives as we do into becoming a doctor, I don't know. I just think about that sometimes, where it's like some people, they're like, you're not going to succeed at that. And I'm like, I've put like $500 into this and it's been 2 months. I've barely even like dipped my toe into it.
Yeah.
You know, people I don't like people. I don't know. Is it like $200,000?
To go
I
to
don't know.
medical
Like
school?
when you add up like undergrad and grad school and like the tests, because you have to pay to take the test to get into
Yeah.
medical school.
Yeah, two hundred
And
and sixty-four thousand dollars if you're going to like out of state, which most
to
people
get
I think
what?
probably 264,000.
For medical school?
The average yearly cost of medical school is $60,000, but it can range between um, total costs vary by institution type and location. So if you're in state and it's a public school, it's 161, almost 162,000 total. But I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of the people who are succeeding are probably going out of state or going to a private school.
Well, see, I think about this a lot, and this is, I feel like, controversial and it might trigger some people, but I gotta say it.
Okay.
I think that, I think our society needs to like pause for a second and ask us why we do the things that we do. And I think about this a lot about just college in general. There are a lot of majors, and I'm not gonna name them because I don't want people coming after me. But there are a lot of majors that in today's day, I don't think you need a college degree in order to do that as your career.
Yeah, agreed.
I think about this as like, and I don't even want to be giving examples because it's like, I don't mean this as a personal attack of like your college degree doesn't mean anything.
Right.
But I think what happens is so often, I remember I worked in the advising department at my school, and the amount of juniors and seniors that would come to me and be like, I don't want to be doing this major, or I was in another major and now I'm switching into this major and I'm trying to get trying to get all the requirements done so I can graduate with this major in the next year or two. And in my mind, I was like, it's because people, we just like, at least in my town was one of those towns where the question wasn't like, are you going to go to college? The question was, where are you going to go to college? No one stopped to be like, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And one, do you know what you want to do? Does that require a college degree? Or like, even could you go to community college to learn some of those skills? Or two, if you don't know what you want to do, maybe don't go and pay $100,000 to go to a school when you don't even know, like, why are you paying? And like, I went to a state school.
Yeah.
We paid, I don't even know, because I was very lucky. I went to a state school and my dad taught there, so I got very, very cheap tuition.
Yeah.
But there's some schools like out of state, it's like $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
$60,000 to spend a year just being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just taking these random classes because I'm told I have to take these random classes, but no one's helping you figure out what you want to do. No one's even asking if you need this. And I think that's something that I've like seen a lot, like just through the like, I know we like, it's strange because in some ways social media, I feel like I have a lot of friends who use social media as just like a fun app, and like, yes, it's very fun, but like seeing social media from a business side, like seeing, I feel like the majority of my friends on social media are business owners and have, Instagram for business, and seeing how many people have built successful businesses and careers from social media or learning through social media. I had a friend who, she dropped out of art school because she was like, I was going to art school. I was paying all this money for art school. And I was going to art school and they were like, okay, tonight for homework, watch this YouTube video. And she's like, I can watch the YouTube video for free. She's like, I would go to classes and they'd be like, okay, today you're going to draw this pineapple. And she was like, I could buy a pineapple for $4 and draw it for free at my house.
Mm-hmm.
And she dropped out and she's now a very successful artist. She has a career as an artist. It's not to say don't go to college. It's more so I think sometimes we hold ourselves back because we've become so, I don't know, I don't know the history of college. I'm not going to pretend to know it. But I feel like it went from something that was like, yeah, you probably should have a licensure before you're a surgeon.
Right.
But it's like, do
Oh,
I
we can
really
make money off of this, so let's charge everybody and tell them that they need a degree for anything that they want to do.
anything? And I think that's the thing that's really sad is like, in college, I was taking a class on like, sociology of social problems. And we were talking about like student debt. And they were talking about
Hmm.
how like colleges like the majority of what you're paying for in a college too is not even like for the degree. It's like for the fitness center and the cafeteria. Like it's become this coming of age experience. But what's really sad is that people are graduating with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt
No
and
experience.
no experience. And then they're getting minimum wage jobs.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
I just remember like graduating and I was like, I'm making less with my bachelor's degree. Could be making more working, like truly working at the gas station. I remember passing by the gas station they were hiring and I was like, their starting rate is more than what I'm making.
Shoot, In and Out is like $20 and they pay for your college or something at this point. So it's like I
Right?
I feel like putting that decision on an 18-year-old is the worst thing ever. Like you don't know yourself or your interests at 18 years old. Like there are very few people who actually know what they want to do at 18 and then do that for the rest of their lives.
Well, and I think the thing is, it's like, I don't know. I remember when I graduated high school, like in my mind, it was like, I just had this belief, and it's not that anyone told me this, but I feel like the pressure to go to college, I feel like the underlying message was you need to go to college so you can get a job so you can like afford to live.
Mm-hmm.
And after college,
Yeah,
like
'cause
when I
you
look
can't get a
back
good
and I'm
job
like,
unless you go to college.
huh?
It's like you can't get a good job unless you go to college. Like nobody's going to hire you unless you go to college.
Exactly. And right, not that like I just think about it and I'm like, I think the belief was like you can't not go to college because you're literally like almost like not how are you going to support yourself if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a college degree? And then graduating and being like I literally could have worked at the gas station and I
Yeah.
could be making more than I'm making like college degree. Granted, the gas station like it doesn't have the same, you know, scope of like career growth, that you're going to have, you know, working say at a psychology clinic and building it, right? But I think that like what it's coming down to is I think now more so like especially Gen Z I think is becoming more aware of like social media, not just social media as like a fun just like oh look I'm just going to post, but more like as a tool.
Yeah.
But I think some of our the older generation, and I think that's also what COVID kind of shifted, because I think COVID opened people's eyes to like just all the opportunities that are out there with just the internet, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like how, but I feel like I don't know, I look at it as like I think some of these people who have built their careers through social media, it's because like social media became like their resume. I think about when I was like
That's so good.
early YouTube, some of those early YouTubers who now are big, I can't even think of some of them off the top of my head. I don't remember their names. But I just remember there was some YouTubers and like they would just make videos on YouTube for the fun of it, and they've like really grown and they've become like incredible like filmmakers,
I
like
mean,
YouTube.
look at like Mr. Beast.
Exactly. And I'm like and I think part of it is because like YouTube became their resume.
Yeah.
People who post, photography on Instagram, like their Instagram became their resume. I see so many people who have, like the, wedding photography or, like, I don't know, family, like they just, the photography business. Um, like no one cares where they went, how they learned, like all the places that they learned photography. They're just like, let me look at the photos you've taken.
Yep.
Let me look at the videos you've created. And I know that that's like more in the arts, but I think that that's still true
It's
with
true with coaching too, though. Like I feel like business in general, it's such a like an undervalued space. Like people don't realize how important it is to be on social media right now because like if you are a business owner, because that is similar to how like it's like a resume, it's also like a Yelp or a Google reviews. Like you being able to see and sample people's work, seeing pictures of it, seeing exactly how they do it. Like I think
Mhm.
about the people who are doing like interior design, like home improvement, and they show how they knock down the walls and like that start to finish process. Like number one, that is so satisfying to watch. But number two, you're showing your expertise. And like I don't
Mhm.
give a shit if you went to carpenter school. If you spent the last 3 years redecorating or repurposing what are those called? Not shelves, dressers. Like I will buy that damn dresser off of you. I don't need to go to that big business anymore. You just got that thing from Goodwill for $20 and repurposed it, and I'm going to buy it from you for 200, but they're selling it at Crate and Barrel, a similar design for 2,000. Like, no, I'm
Yeah.
shopping small business and I'm saving myself some money. Like stuff is going to change, but that's not the point here. The point is like businesses need to be putting their stuff out on social media because it does give people a taste of what it's like to work with you. It gives them an example of like your values. It gives you an example of like your personality. And a lot of people, what they say is like people don't buy products, they buy people or like they buy personality. And I feel like coaching especially, it's so important to put your beliefs, your thoughts, your methodologies on social media for people to be able to see and experience because that's what makes it easier for them to be like, yes, this is my person. But I think across any industry, it's important because it gives people that understanding of what you do and how you do it.
Yeah. And I think that that it's just like, I don't know, it's just a new way of doing things. It's a different way of doing things, and I think that sometimes, I don't know, it's that same thing of like we kind of just get stuck in, but that's not how it's been done, and it's like, but just because that's not how it's been done doesn't mean that like it's wrong or it
Well, I
can't be
mean,
done.
nothing is how it's been done. There's never been AI before. There's never been social media before. There was never internet before internet was made. Like, but these things exist. And so they're going to happen. And either you hop on board and you adjust and you adapt and you figure it out, or you get left behind. And like,
Mhm.
unfortunately, a lot of people are getting left behind right now.
Yeah. No, what you said. But I think the issue is like some people are still stuck in the mentality that if you just get a degree, you're set. And
Yeah.
what I've seen from so many people in different fields is I got a degree in psychology. Granted, I ended up working at a clinic for a while and I loved it. And I truly loved that job. But I now work at an accounting firm.
Hmm.
I didn't study accounting. My bosses literally from the very beginning taught me everything that I know, and I'm now working on tax returns.
Yeah.
I think about that and I'm like, that's not to say, and I think that's what I mean, is it's not to say that like you don't need to go and get a degree in accounting, like an accounting degree is pointless. No. I'm not saying an accounting degree is pointless. I'm not saying because I did it doesn't mean you don't need a degree. But what I mean is I think we sometimes we undervalue, maybe this is what I'm trying to say, is I think the thing that's really important is teaching people like the skills of like learning and like organization and like communication those are skills, like, being someone that's like on time, being someone that's reliable. Because I feel like you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you, I don't know where I'm going with this.
No, you're even like emotional intelligence, how to like, you know, take care of yourself, all of these like life skills that we don't get taught. I think when people say that they're taking a gap year before they go to college, I think it's the most amazing thing, because really what they're saying is like, I don't know what I want to do, so I'm not going to spend the money right now. But there's like, I understand that I need to like still progress, and I still need to like learn and live life. So I'm going to like go get some experience in the world and whatever. But I think what would be so cool is if, instead of college being this like you have to choose a major as soon as you enter, it's more of like a, this is what real life is like, and
Mhm.
here's how you use your money. Here's how you invest in the stock market. Here's how you like do all of these things. Here's how you do your taxes. Here's how you have healthy communication with people. Like, if you were taught, I mean, I wish we were taught these things in high school too, but especially when you're on your own for the first time and you have no idea what you're doing, like, you're just kind of like flailing. And I think that is the benefit of going off to college, is that you're kind of like in that, in a controlled environment. But then when you get into the real world, it hits you again, and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I thought it was going to be like this. I didn't know all of this was going to happen. um so I don't think that it's that, like, I think that obviously there's certain professions where college degrees are extremely important. I think that trade schools have become a really huge, valuable um, educational system to go to at this point. But there's so many people who teach courses online that there's just different ways of learning the skills that you need to have the experience to make a ton of money. And there's just so many options for things that you can do that, like, you really don't even need skills for. Some people are just talented as dancers, and they can just post videos of them dancing and make a ton of money off of that instead of going to dance school. And maybe there's benefits for the people who go to the dance schools, or maybe the person who gets discovered by the dance school, offers this person a full ride to Juilliard or whatever the case is. But I just think, like what you said, it's worth taking a beat and thinking about, rather than just mindlessly doing things the way we always have.
And I think maybe that's like put into words, like into nice words. What I was trying to say is that, like, the issue is not that like you're wasting your time by going to college, but I think we need to pause. Like, and I think that's where I think sometimes people get stuck. Is, I'll talk to people that they're like, well, I don't love what I'm doing right now, but I don't know what else I would do. Like, and they'll kind of share what they want to do, and it's kind of like, but I don't want to go back. Like, I don't know how that's possible. Like, I can't do that. Or like, I don't want to have to go back to school for that. And it's like, there are so many other ways that you can make that happen,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that that's like, college is one path, but it's not the only path for a lot of career paths, for a lot of experiences.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of different ways. And like you said, like, especially with social media, just like the internet, like YouTube, like I said, Skillshare. There's so many, like, even like I think about like learning languages. There's so many. I know there are people who there's native speakers who now on Instagram like teach languages, and now they create courses where you can get tutored, one on one. Like, there's just so many different ways to like learn new skills, to learn new like information
Mhm.
that's like outside, even just like self-study,
Mhm.
you know, like reading the book without needing to go to the class and having someone to tell you to read the book. I don't know. I think that that's, and I think that that is a very underrated and underutilized skill,
Yeah.
opportunity, avenue. Um, when it comes to just like switching up what you want to do in your life. I think that people have a lot more opportunities than they realize they do.
Yeah. And I think that they're going to start realizing it. I mean, like you said, like I think Gen Z is kind of starting to realize that. I think that the generations that come after us are going to like go in that direction. And so then the other part of this conversation that we probably don't have time to get into today is just like if you're not like I wonder what's going to happen to these college or like educational institutions 20, 30 years from now. I just wonder how the world of education will change because of the way that things are so rapidly um adapting to like the social media and technological world of doing things. Even like uh um not augmented reality, but what is that called? Virtual reality. Like
I was like, AI? No. I was like, that's not it.
that too, but like think about how virtual reality is going to change things like medical school or change
Mm.
things like um, a psychology degree. Like being able to sit in there and like have a conversation with a patient, getting like clinical experience.
I didn't even think about that.
There's just so much that like people don't think is possible, or like what you were saying before, like, oh, that's never going to happen. Oh, it's not the same as in person. Like, yeah, but what if it is? Because what if the surgeon no longer ever needs to touch another patient ever again? They can tell the virtual reality thing what they want it to do, and then a robot is sitting over there performing the surgery specifically, like perfect how it's supposed to
Mhm.
go.
And I feel like that's something like when you say that, I'm like, not that that's impossible, but I'm like, whoa, that's wild. But I'm like, we have self-driving cars.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But this is
and I
why
think,
people need to think. They just need to think a little bit.
and I think that that's something that's just, I don't know. Sometimes I think we, especially the older generations, which makes sense, right? Like, it's just like the same way that for me, like that idea of like being able to use, virtual reality to do surgery, I'm like, okay, I can kind of imagine it, but that still feels kind of crazy. Someone younger than me might be like, I can already imagine it.
Yeah.
Like I'm designing it. Um, but yeah, I think that that's just an area that's like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm like, I would like look around me and be like, am I the only, like, am I crazy for thinking this is possible? Because everyone around me is saying that this is like insane, but it seems it seems almost insane not to think that there's like so many opportunities out there just online in the online world. And it wasn't until I feel like I made so many friends like through social media who have businesses in so many different sorts of, like, not just coaching, you know, um, that suddenly I'm like even self-publishing books. I mean, people who just like now, like, I feel like it used to feel like writing a book was this like, how do you get a book deal? Like, and now it's like you don't even need a book deal. You can self-publish and still make it as like become a very successful author. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like we know someone who self-published and literally was on the New York Times bestseller list.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think that those are all. I think that's like in a way like something else that like the online space has done is it's like shown people like when one person does it, suddenly everyone's like, "Oh, that's a thing that I can do too." I feel
Yeah.
like this did not go anywhere where we originally intended it to. I don't even know. I hope that was useful for you, or we can meet again and
I
talk.
I think that this was amazing, and I think that it was extremely valuable. It wasn't where we were intending to go, but I think that's how things just happened to go with us. But
Well, I'm happy to come back and do one more focused on the original topic. But that was interesting. And I feel like you got me even thinking. I started thinking about so many different fields that I'm like, that one you can do something different. That one you can like just different majors that like we had at my school that I'm like, not that, and again, not to say that the major is pointless, but just like there are other avenues to learn that. And I think I really that comes up because I think I've come to a point where sometimes I'm like, there's a feeling of like I want to go maybe change my path and feeling like in the old scheme of things of feeling like I already chose my path.
mm-hmm,
I went to university for my path and like that was my path and kind of like you can get off the path, but that's going to take a lot of effort and
mm-hmm,
realize it's actually a lot more possible than I realized
yeah,
because I don't have to like go in reverse and start over, you know?
mm-hmm, yeah,
There are other ways for me to, I don't know, for me to learn and I don't know, I think, and I think that's the thing is like, as I've gotten older, I think like, yes, there's a point where it's like, you know, having skills and like sometimes degrees like does like help you. I don't want to say they don't help you, but really I feel like the most important tool or skill is networking, you know? And I think that that's, I don't know, I'm just going on tangents and tangents and tangents.
totally agree. This was really great. I'm glad we did this.
I know, me too.
So,
Thanks.
for being my first guest.
Oh my goodness, thanks for having me. This was fun. This
Yeah.
was cool.
All right. Well, love
Love
you.
you. Bye.
All right, y'all. That's a wrap. Thanks so much for being here. Until next time, take care.